loves, it's your girl TashaAna.Nicole, and I'm back with another video. And today, guys, I'm going to be doing a story time for you / get ready with me. As you guys can see, y'all already know when you see me in front of my vanity, it's that time to do some more makeup. But the story that I'm going to be telling you guys today is the time that me and my family thought that my brother got kidnapped. Which honestly, guys, this was a very traumatizing and scary experience for all of us. So, and it was a very, very long time ago. So bear with me when I am explaining this story. I did have to call like a couple of family members to get the story correct. But I was like, why not just tell you guys this story while I do my makeup? I really don't know what look I'm going for today. The only thing I do know is that I'm going to be using this palette right here. Let me just get you guys so y'all can see it. So yeah, it'll be this palette right here. And it has a really lot of pretty colors. So I was just like, why not use this palette for today? And I think this is like my second time using this palette. But to start off with this on this story, guys, I was around the age of 6 years old, and my brother Jonathan, he was 7. And I remember that it was a day that we didn't have to go to school the next day, but I can't remember if it was like the summertime or if this happened like on a weekend. And me and my brother, we wanted to go outside to play with like some of our friends. So my mom had like gave us permission to go outside, and she was just like, make sure you guys stay together and just make sure you come back home before the street lights come on. Which, you know, was obviously, you know, it's reasonable. And so we went outside, and I remember that I had a friend that lived downstairs from us. So I had told my brother, like, you know, hey, I'm going to go over here with my friend, and I'm just going to go and play at her house. And my brother Jonathan, he didn't want to stay with me. Like, obviously, you know, I was going to be playing with a couple of girls. Like, you know, he didn't want to, like, stay there and, like, play with, like, you know, watch us play or whatever. So he was just like, you know, okay, that's cool. Like, you know, I'm going to go with my other friend. You know, we had, like I said, like, we had a couple of friends that lived in that apartment because we all went kind of to the same elementary school. So I told my brother, okay, like, you know, go ahead on and go. I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going to go nowhere. Just make sure you come back before the street lights come on so we can go home. So hours go by, and I'm still at my friend's house, you know, playing with her and, you know, doing our thing. And my sister Rachel, she comes downstairs to like come get me. And like they already knew that I was like down there, because like when I asked my mom, like, could I go outside and play, it was like I really had asked her, could I go to my friend's house? And they knew where she was. But I guess they were just under the impression that my brother was also gonna just like go down there with me and stay with me. So when my sister came, she came to get us, and she was like, hey, you know, mom wants y'all to come back home. And I was just like, oh, okay, like, you know, that's no problem. I said, but I like told my sister, I'm like, but Jonathan's not here. I'm like, Jonathan went to his friend's house, and I'm not going to say his friend's name, so we're just going to call him M. So I was like, Jonathan went to his friend's M's house. And my sister, I remember my sister was like, why did Jonathan go over there? Like, y'all were supposed to stay together. You already know mom's gonna bitch, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, all right, well, let's go get him, so that way y'all can come back home. So we went walking, obviously, to his house, because like I think he didn't stay right next to us, but he did stay like somewhere within the complex. And so we went walking over there to the boy's house, and, you know, I went over there and I knocked. I remember I knocked on the door, and I was like, hey, you know, is my brother here? And he just kind of looked at me, and he's like, no, like, I haven't seen your brother all day. Like, I thought he was going to come over, but he never did. So I was like, okay. And like thinking nothing of it, like at this point, I wasn't like, we weren't worried still, like Ernie, or I wasn't worried, you know, when he wasn't over there. And I went and I told my sister, like, hey, you know, he said that Jonathan's not here. But I told her, I was all like, but there's other like kids that he hangs out with in these apartments. So why don't we just go knock on their houses and see if he's somewhere over there? So she was like, all right, let's go. Like, you know, do you know where all these people live at? And I was like, yeah, you know, we'll just go knock on their houses. So at this point, it already is dark outside when we're going door to door knocking on people's houses. And my sister at this point did start kind of, I can see in her face that she was starting to kind of like worry, because we were supposed to already been back home and the street lights had already came on. So we go to we go to everybody's house, and all the kids that I went to knocking on their door or whatever that I know he hangs out with, they were saying that they didn't see Jonathan all day. And so I like told my sister, I was like, yeah, like no one has seen him. So she was like, come on, like, let's go back home. Like, we got to go tell mom. Like, mom's going to freak out. She's going to be so mad. Like, sorry, guys, my mouth was dry. But yeah, so she was all like, let's hurry up. Let's go. Like, mom is going to be super pissed. Blah, blah, blah. So I remember we got to the house, and my mom was cooking in the kitchen, and she was like, you know, she was cooking dinner or whatever. And my sister is like, you know, mom, like, I can't find Jonathan. She's all like, Jonathan was supposed to be with Tasha, but he ended up telling my mom, like, you know, she's explaining the whole story to my mom. Like, you know, Jonathan obviously didn't stay with me. He went to another friend's house, but all the friends that he supposedly has in these apartments, you know, he doesn't, like, no one has seen him. So my mom immediately starts to think that maybe he went like with like to an like in those complex that we used to live at. We used to live on Plaster Road, and Plaster Road used to have like all these apartments like around them, and like they were super close. So my mom thought that, oh, well, maybe he went to the apartments next door to hang out with another friend or something. So I remember that me and my sister went back out to go look for him again. And I know at this point we probably did go to another apartments, because I remember at this point we didn't go back to everybody's house that we already originally went to and knock on their door again. So I think we did go to like the next apartments over, and we were like yelling his name, like right, like as we were walking out of our apartments, we were yelling his name. Like we had immediately started yelling his name, like at the top of our lungs. We were like, Jonathan, 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 like, and we started like yelling his name like everywhere, because we're like, well, maybe like, you know, he will hear us yelling his name like in one of these, if he's in one of these apartments. So we're yelling his name, going around yelling his name everywhere around the whole complex. At this point, I guess people started to hear us, because a couple of people started coming out their, you know, their buildings and their homes and stuff. And the people that we were like, you know, asking, we started asking them like, hey, have you seen this boy? We were describing how he looked like, and like no one had seen him. Like everyone was like telling us, no, we haven't seen him. People didn't even know who he was, all this stuff. So me and my sister, we decide to just go back home. So when we go back home, we tell my mom like, hey, look, we still haven't found him. At this point, my mom is losing her shit. Like she stops, like she was still cooking, and she stops and like cooking. She starts freaking out. I remember her like pacing back and forth in the kitchen trying to figure out like what is she gonna do. So she immediately was all like, call 911. She starts calling 911. She's like freaking out, like wondering what the hell has happened to my brother. And I remember when she called like 911, she didn't say like, hey, I think my brother is kidnapped or anything. She was just like, I can't find my son. He's missing. He was supposed to be outside with some friends, but his friends said that they've never seen him. They never saw him today. Like, can you send somebody out here to help me find my son? And so, like I said, so we used to live on like, in the apartments where we lived at, we lived like on the 3rd floor, and we have like a patio, like where we can go, like when we step outside into our patio, we can see obviously kind of like the whole neighborhood. So I remember that I was like in the house, and my mom was like franticing. She was crying hysterically. my mom and like, yeah, so she was like crying hysterically and stuff. And my sister and my dad were like sitting on the patio, like outside on the patio. And I went out there and I can hear them talking and they're like, don't worry. Like they were telling each other, like, we're going to find him. He's going to be okay. Like my sister Rachel started crying and I started crying. Like, y'all, when I tell y'all, like, it was like hella people trying to help us look for him. Like there was like people, like the whole, like when I was standing outside, like there was like a bunch of people standing outside in front of our building. And then on top of that, when the cops finally showed up, they rolled up and they showed up deep. Like I want to say, like it was like, I can't honestly remember, but I do remember that it was a lot of cops, because I remember seeing a lot of cop cars. They also had like the ambulance out there, the fire department. Like they had so many people out here trying to find my brother. And at this point, guys, like several hours have passed that we were still trying to find him. And my mom was super heartbroken. Like I can just see in her face that she was just so worried. She didn't understand. They were asking my mom all these questions like, oh, would my brother run away? This and this and that. And my mom was like, no, he's only 7. Like, where the hell would he run to? And I remember them asking my mom for a picture of, of my brother and how he looks like. Because, the whole time that, they're in the house talking to us or whatever, they don't even know what he looks like. And we described him, but they don't have a clear picture of what he looked like. So I remember that that I had a picture, an old picture of my brother in my room from when we took, like, from picture day or whatever. So I remember I ran into my bedroom and I grabbed the picture and I gave it to the officer. And I just, like, at that point is when I think it kind of finally hit me that, like, my brother was, like, missing or whatever. Because I remember when I handed the cop the picture, like, I just started breaking down crying. And I remember, like, tears just falling down my face, falling, and I was just crying and crying. And I remember I kept telling my mom, I just want Jonathan home, all this stuff. So my sister came, and she came and she got me, and she's like, here, just come with me, like, let mom talk to the cop, like, just let's go sit down over here. And I remember, like, hours have passed, guys, at this point, and the officers have already went out looking for him. Everyone was out there looking for him. People like my dad at one point, I think he went out there with my sister again to go look for him around the neighborhood and even drive around the neighborhood to see if they saw him anywhere. And nothing. Not no word from Jonathan. No one has seen him. No one has said they saw him previously or anything. It was crickets for hours. No one knew, like, anything about my brother. It was as if he freaking vanished. Like, no one knew nothing. And it was just, like, a very scary and traumatic, like, experience. Like, can you imagine, like, being a mom and, like, knowing that there's a possibility that your child may not come home? Like, I just could not imagine what my mom was imagining or thinking at that moment. Like, because she just, like, it's like as if she froze a little bit, because I remember that she kind of, like, stayed in the living room when the cops were there talking to her. And she just had this really sad defeat look on her face, like, as if she just, like, her whole world just came crashing down. Like, and I just felt so bad for my mom. And, like, all I wanted to do was, like, I remember I just wanted to hug her and, like, cry with her and cry in her arms. But, like, my sister, like, Rachel kept telling me, like, no, like, come just stay with me out here on the patio. And I did, like, for a minute. We sat at that patio for a long time. I remember, like, looking out into the crowd, trying to see if we see my brother, trying to see, like, if we hear anything, if we hear the cops saying anything over the microphone or their microphones or whatever. But, like, nothing for hours. We didn't hear anything, which was super scary. So at this point, several hours has gone by. And I want to say at this point it was like 11 o'clock at night, because it was, like, pretty late, and we were all still kind of standing out there, like, waiting for my brother, seeing if we hear anything or if they find him. And what ended up happening was is like I think I started crying again even more. And my sister Rachel came over like and hugged me, like, and we're at this point we're still in the patio, and she like hugged me and like was trying to comfort me. And as she's like hugging me, she yells like at the top of her lungs, like super freaking loud. And she's like, Jonathan, like as if she like saw him. And as soon as she said that, like into the crowd, I can hear someone answer back, yes. And when I heard that, like I immediately like kind of like pushed my sister off of me. And when I like looked into the crowd, I saw that it was my brother. And I yelled his name, like I yelled his name again, and I was like, Jonathan. And my mom, like at that point, not my mom, but my sister and my dad, my sister ran in the house. My sister ran back into the house and was like, oh my God, I see Jonathan outside. And my dad immediately like took off running outside with my sister. And I tried to run outside too. But when I tried to run outside, one of the cops had like grabbed me and was like, no, just wait here. Like, don't run outside. And I went back, I ran into the patio to see, like, you know, if that was actually him. And when I ran over there and was like looking, like I saw immediately that my dad like scooped him up, like literally scooped him up and was like just hugging him. And I could see my dad like kind of crying, and they were just like relieved that, like, you know, they found him. And like when we saw him like walking down the driveway of the complex, he was walking with like this guy. So I was trying to see who he was with, you know, who he came walking with. And I could see like the cops and like my dad and like my sister and everyone like talking to him. And then I could see that they had pulled that guy to the side and they were also talking to him. And since like I was on the third floor, I could not hear a word that anyone was saying, like, or anything. And my mom was still like inside the living room talking with another officer. So a couple of minutes go by and they let my brother come back upstairs. And as soon as he came back upstairs, my mom like jumped up and she started crying and she started hugging him. And, you know, she was asking, like, thanking the Lord, like, you know, thank you, like, you know, you brought my son back home, all, like, you know, all that good stuff. And I can remember that she was kind of asking him, like, what happened, where did he go, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think my brother answered him. I don't think my brother answered my mom. Like, I think he kind of just sat there looking at her. And then, like, she's like, well, are you hungry? Do you want me to fix you something? And I remember her, like, fixing him, like, a plate of food, like, after she was, like, all the food that she had cooked from earlier before. And, like I said, guys, it was just super crazy and, like, super scary, like, to imagine that I was, like, never going to probably see my brother again. Like, I was terrified. I remember, like, I ran over there and I hugged him too, and I just started crying a little bit. And it was just like a very traumatic experience for all of us. And like, come to find out, my brother, obviously he did not get kidnapped. But what ended up happening is when my brother left me downstairs with the neighbor with my friend, you know, his intention was to go to his friend's M's house. And when he said that he said that when he left, you know, left me or whatever, that he went, you know, walking towards his friend's house. And when he went walking over there, that's when he ran into that guy that he left with. And this guy wasn't like, I mean, he was a stranger kind of, but wasn't a complete stranger to Jonathan, because the night before we were at a we were at a party, at my mom's friend's party. And it was like some people in the complex. And Jonathan and me had met that guy the night before at that party. And I want to say that, like, to me, the guy was older than us. And thinking back on it, like, back in the day, like, we didn't think he was that older. But when we got old, like, you know, we finally found out how old the guy was. The guy was like in his, like, he was either like 19 or 20. And he was at the party with his girlfriend. And I don't know, like, I guess the girl thought Jonathan looked so cute, like, you know, and shit. And like that whole night, she kept like calling Jonathan her little boyfriend or whatever the fuck. And, you know, Jonathan getting attention from a pretty ass girl, he thought like, oh yeah, you know, she's calling me her boyfriend. I don't know if this motherfucker believed that he was really her boyfriend, because he said that he saw that guy outside and he was like talking to him for a little bit, and he like asked, like, he's like, all right, little dude, like, I'm about to go. And Jonathan asked him like, oh, where are you going? And he said to his girlfriend's house. And because Jonathan remembered that that girl was calling him his little girlfriend, his little boyfriend, Jonathan was like, oh, well, can I come with you too? And I was like, how you just gonna like go with somebody that you just met the night before and not really know him like that? And then in my mind now, thinking how actually old this guy was, I'm like, what will possess you to take someone else's child out of their complex and not think to, hey, let me maybe go ask this boy's mom, is it cool if he comes with me? So so all that happened. Jonathan ended up going with that guy. The guy didn't take him. I can't remember what the cops said to the guy. Like, you know, what would possess you to take this boy, or why would you take him with you? You really didn't know him like that. But my brother Jonathan ended up telling me, like, you know, I asked him, like, where did you guys end up going, or where did you go with that guy? Because obviously y'all weren't in the complex. And my brother was all like that they ended up going to the girlfriend's house, and like the girlfriend, she lived like in Jimmy Carter somewhere. And mind you, we were all the way in Plaster Road, Beaufort Highway. And so I was all like, what the heck? Like, why would you go, like, you know, with that, you know, with that guy? And so my brother said that, you know, they went, and like he went with them, and they went to that girl's house, and they just like, they were just chilling. Like, they didn't do nothing. Like, they were just over there like chilling. And then Jonathan and the guy finally came back home. But when they came back home, the girlfriend was the one that dropped them off. And she, like, I don't know if she kind of knew that something was up, because she didn't even like bring them all the way in front of the apartment of their building, or even of the guy's building. She dropped them off over there, like, by the park. And that's why they were walking down, you know, by themselves. So I was all like, you know, like, you're, like, I looked at my brother and I was like, you're a complete fucking idiot. Like, why the hell would you leave with people you don't even know that well? Like, because this whole thing could have went a whole different way. And like, I honestly thought that when my brother got home, I thought like my mom was gonna like yell at him, you know, be mad with him or whatever, because he left and shit, like, with people he didn't know. But no, she really didn't say. Like, she was just happy to see him, and she was just happy that he made it home safe and all that, like, and nothing really like happened to him. But to be honest, guys, like, that is when like a lot of like my mom's attitude changed, because she wasn't with like letting us spend the night at people's houses no more. She got a little bit more strict. She really didn't let us like go outside like that by ourselves anymore. Like, my mom just got super, super paranoid after that. Like, she just wasn't having it. She was like, fuck that. Y'all are not going to leave my sight ever again. Like, he never got an ass whooping. He never got in trouble. I don't think my mom ever yelled at him about, you know, about that. And, you know, but it just made my mom just a little bit more stricter. And she really didn't let us, like, go and be spending a night at people's houses and stuff like that. All because my brother wanted to be grown and think he was grown to go hang out with some older people, and thinking that he really did have a girlfriend, an older girlfriend out there. While we're all at the house crying, traumatized, thinking that someone done kidnapped him and someone done took him and we're never going to see him again. And he's over there at someone else's house knowing he ain't supposed to be there. All right, you guys, this is the final look right here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And since you're already here, go ahead and hit that post notification bell so you guys can be notified anytime I drop a new video. Till next time, my loves. Peace.